A disturbing, had to watch 2 minutes and 8 seconds video have surfaced on social media. The video shows how the Eastern Security Network, ESN, that acclaimed security wing of the indigenous people of Biafra, ipob, celebrated the abduction and beheading of 2 out of 3 police officers, has surfaced online, causing shock and disbelief across the social media space. The repulsive video featured some young men believed to be ipob ESN members communicating in Igbo language and surrounded by 2 severed heads of police officers placed by a fire they set up as if being roasted in a remote place. The brutish young men who cannibalized the deceased clowned and scorned them, and even as they repeatedly stated that one of the 2 healed looked like a Fulani from the look of his nose. The 3rd officer was seen sitting on the floor with his fate unknown as at the time the video was released. Meanwhile, the federal government, which described the development as unacceptable, has vowed to bring justice to the persons behind the gruesome murder of the 2 policemen. Tundu, what's your take on this?
I mean, this is completely monstrous. It's beyond monstrous. Clearly, I haven't watched the video. I will never watch such a thing. But the idea that some people can be so depraved as to murder human beings and film themselves as if it's something to be proud of, and then to dismember the bodies and then roast people's heads, and then they're not, these are serving police officers, and they have names. ASP Francis Idoko, Inspector Emmanuel Akubo, Inspector Rufai Adamu are the 3 men there. 2, unfortunately, deceased and decapitated, and 1 alive in the video, which we pray he still is as of now. But this really, for me, is about the heinous murder of serving police officers and the complete lack of respect for law enforcement officers in this country that we continue to witness. This is so abhorrent, and the federal government cannot tolerate this. Action must be taken, and I really don't care for the other undertone of tribalism, which tends to rear its ugly head. Will be such, near perfect as far as I'm concerned as Nigerians, if we could get rid of that evil of tribalism. Talking about the features of one of the people they have just murdered and saying he looks like a Fulani, what on earth is that about? I mean, it's disgusting. The federal government must fish them out. This is intolerable in any civilized society. And I don't care who they are, what their motives are. This cannot be tolerated. It's beyond disgusting.
Dr. Obati?
Well, it's shocking. It's unbelievable. This is terrible, condemnable to the highest degree. That we will have a situation in Nigeria in 2021 whereby there will be a video in circulation of persons engaged in the act of murder and cannibalism and being evil-minded enough to record it and to circulate it. You will have thought that this will be, the kind of thing we used to read about in antediluvian times, in prehistoric Africa, when cannibalism was the norm, and people lived in a state of nature, the Obesian state of nature, where life was nasty and brutish, and there was no rule of law and order. But to have a rules-based system, a country that has rules and has laws in place, and some persons going under whatever banner at all would not only abduct, kidnap, serving officers of the state, but would then proceed to decapitate them and set up a bonfire as if to give the impression that they were going to engage in a cannibalistic feast. It is an indication of how bad our society has become. It is an indication of the kind of cruelty that is abroad in our land. The persons who abducted these 3 policemen were said to have done so on November 27, and they've been identified as members of the Eastern Security Network. Whoever they may be, it is the duty of the law of the state to fish them out and to ensure that they are brought to justice. This was the point that was made by Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, and I hope that that statement was made in all seriousness, Because in the report that we have seen in the papers, the organization involved was not just identified, the leader of the gang was also identified. I hope that leader of the gang will not become a ghost, and the Nigerian state will do whatever it can, will do all it takes to make sure that all the persons are involved in this heinous murder of serving police officers of the state are apprehended and made to face the full wrath of the law. The second leg of it, of course, is that this raises the issue of ethnic relations in Nigeria. In the video, the graphic reporting this day, I thought this day report was a bit too graphic. Though I don't know why the editor chose to go give all those details. You know, this is an indication of the degeneration in terms of ethnic relations. We were told that there was a reference to one of them looking like a Fulani, and that's Inspector Adamu in this case. Two heads were placed on the floor by the fire. Another, policeman who had not yet been decapitated was there witnessing the scene. And then how do you want, that reference to Fulanis to be taken? This was how the Civil War started. They believed that one particular person, some persons in one ethnic group were targeting persons in another ethnic group. And I'm not surprised that all of this has been extended in the reports that we have seen in terms of the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of ipob, with which the Eastern Security Network is associated. You recall that before now, a group called highly distinguished Igbo greats had visited President Muhammadu Buhari. And one of their major requests on that occasion, that a political solution should be found to the trial of Nnamdi Kanu. They urged that, look, this was a case of political trial, and that in the interest of peace and justice and stability in the country, maybe the federal government of Nigeria should opt for a political situation. So I was not surprised when, in the light of this latest development that has been reported, that the Northern Elders Forum said that no, the idea of a political solution is unacceptable to the NEF, and that the trial should go on, and that anybody who is involved in any kind of act of aggression against the Nigerian state should be made to face the full wrath of the law. I hope that at the end of the day, this will be done. However, the other leg of it, of course, is that there are Nigerians, don't be surprised, who will come forward and say that why is this particular video of members of the ESN beheading police officers in circulation? Why has the Nigerian government not spoken up in the past when, Boko Haram, terrorists, bandits, whatever label you give to them, beheaded people, and that now it has taken this assault on policemen for the state to speak up? Well, I say that is neither here nor there. Whether it is Boko Haram beheading people or it is the ESN beheading people, it is the cruelty involved, the wickedness involved, the criminality involved that should be condemned. So going forward, the Nigerian government must see, of course, that the security challenge in Nigeria is taking a very dangerous dimension. When people go about beheading people, whether they are Boko Haram or they are ESN, it means that we're living at the edge of the precipice, and the state has a responsibility to protect all of us, whether we're in uniform or we're not in uniform. We commiserate with the families of the affected policemen. Soldiers continue to pay the supreme sacrifice in the line of duty. Nobody should be subjected to such indignity. It's a comment on the state of insecurity in Nigeria, and which is why it is sad that you will find public officials, making light of it. It's a very serious matter, and we hope that the Nigerian government will make an example of these persons who have been identified in the reports.
Right, that's all on News Headline.
Let's start the review with this Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, quite a sobering one. In most bestial, horrific manner, ipob beheads, cannibalizes 2 police officers. Their action is unacceptable, says federal government. Northern Elders Forum kicks against Kanu's release. I'll just read the first paragraph of that story as written by This Day. A disturbing, hard to watch 2 minutes and 8 seconds video of how the Eastern Security Network, the acclaimed security wing of the indigenous people of Biafra, ipob, celebrated the abduction and beheading of 2 out of 3 police officers has surfaced online, causing shock and disbelief across the social space. This is most horrific, that these policemen were abducted by ipob, and according to the reports, on instruction of their leader. The names of these policemen, Mohammed, let me get the names again, because, yes, ASP Francis Idoko, Inspector Emmanuel Akubo, and Inspector Rufai Adamu. 3 policemen are hearts and sympathies to the families of these policemen and indeed to the Nigerian police as an organization. What these young men, who obviously are either deranged or were very high on something, whether you call it pomeri or methamphetamine, which is very popular in that part of the country, what they have done cannot be excused. In any society, even prehistoric society, you don't behead somebody and dance around with fire as if you want to roast the head. That in itself can pass for crime against humanity. Yes, crime against humanity. Because the Encyclopedia Britannica states clearly that any action that shocked the conscience of humanity can pass as crime against humanity. And this fall in that category. And I expect to see here torrents of condemnation from that part of the country. This is not the time for anybody to say we're afraid of ipob. We condemn this totally, and the government must use every instrument available, every means available to fish out those behind this dastardly act and bring them to book accordingly. And for ipob, if there is any iota of sympathy for their cause outside their catchment geographical area, clearly actions like this will wipe up such sympathy. And those who are saying they should seek a political solution must also come out to condemn what these people have done. Eastern Security Network, wing of ipob. Yes, I agree with Ruben that when anybody is beheaded, whether it's a policeman, whether it's a civilian, under any guise, the government must come out as strongly as this. This is condemnable, and it is unacceptable in a society like ours. Ruben, Rufai, and Tudu, I leave you to say something on this.
I mean, this is beyond murder most foul. It's completely reprehensible. And I agree with what you've both said about the fact that we've always had insecurity in Nigeria. We've always had really quite harrowing news that we hear. But now it's really beyond the pale. What is happening recently is increasingly shocking in depravity, in monstrosity. And this, for me, is really a nadir. And then the federal government coming out to say that the perpetrators will be caught, will be, penalized, is all very reassuring. It's wonderful, and I'm sure that they will be caught and penalized. They must be, actually. They have to be. But those are just the symptoms, isn't it? The root cause of this kind of wickedness from one human being to another has not been addressed, is not being addressed, and it has to be. It's really across the country. Name a part of Nigeria now that's some kind of oasis of calm. It doesn't exist. It's really beyond the pale.
I mean, the shocking thing about this barbarity for me is I'm not sure the perpetrators of this very destructive act spared a thought for the families of these men when they were beheading them. We have become animals. We don't even have respect for our basic humanity any longer.
Well, some, not everybody. That's why we are shocked.
Yeah.
Because we are not animals.
Some. We don't even have respect for the common ethos that binds all of us as human beings. And like Tundu said, check every part of this country. Across the large swaths of 923,000 square kilometers of land we have. Across the seas, from the Nigers to the Benways, to every river that inundates this country. It is chaos everywhere. At a point in time, we have never talked about polarization like we are talking about polarization now. Barbarity, chaos, anarchy is right here. But in all of this, I know strongly that we can come out of this. But we must ask ourselves the very strong questions. That are we ready to put hands together to come out of this? Are we ready to stay true to the cause of our nation? And are we ready to shun evil when we see evil? You know, Dr. Abati enunciated a point of view while he was speaking about this morning, that some people will also argue across different lines, tribal lines. That should not be the case. This is barbarity. And until the day we all come together to call a spade as regards evil, we'll never move forward. So we condemn this in its entirety. We urge the federal government of Nigeria to fish out the killers and let them face the full wrath of the law. But it is time for us to look inward in our country. One too many stories of violence and killings. The other day was a prison break in Jos. Every part of this country, from Onikolobo in Abeokuta to Potiskum, up in the north, we're in crisis. But we can't save Nigeria.
Well, in addition to the preliminary comments I made on this subject earlier on, I think about barbarity, man's inhumanity to man, and the need for justice and how to prevent this kind of situation. I think the only thing that needs to be added is the fact that, look, we're dealing here with persons in uniform, policemen. Once upon a time in this country, we were told that the police is your friend. So this raises questions. What is it that has gone so terribly wrong in Nigeria in terms of the relationship between the state and the individual and stakeholders, and between uniformed persons and the people, such that what you now find is an adversarial relationship between some Nigerians and uniformed persons. In 2020, it was #EndSARS protest. Now, after the report was issued, there have been persons who have said, oh, nobody even spared a thought for the policemen who were killed in the process, the policemen that were attacked, and others who lost their lives. What is it that has gone wrong? And also, about 2 weeks ago, there was this report about conflict between soldiers and members of either ipob or ESN, also in Anambra State. And now you have policemen being beheaded. So something really has gone fundamentally wrong in terms of the trust, the relationship between uniformed persons who are paid with taxpayers and who are to protect taxpayers. And now you have the people turning against those same persons who have elected to serve the country and make the sacrifice for the country and protect all of us. That in itself is the most disturbing part of it, in addition to the ethnic coloration of the entire narrative and the fact that Nigerians are no longer shocked by tragedy and the unusual. We seem to be getting to a new level whereby tragedy is becoming a new normal. That's something that has gone wrong. Are we going through some kind of a national mass psychosis? You know, a certain kind of psychosis that is a psychological problem, not just for individuals, but also for the entire collective. But I understand we need to take a short break. Emmanuel Efeni, stay with us, don't go away. Immediately after this break, The review of newspapers from around the world will continue. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Emmanuel Ofene, the great Malabite, is still here with a review of newspapers from around the world.
Yes,
Emmanuel Ofene, back to you.
Ruben. Just before I move to other newspapers, you know, those who are quick to shoot down the report of the Lagos NSAS panel are in the habit of pushing this narrative. Nobody spared a thought for the policemen who were killed. Recall that the names of all those policemen have been published by the police authorities, and the mandate of that panel was clear. Their terms of reference was clear, and that was what they dealt with. But I also want to put on record that this day newspaper devoted an edition of style to all the policemen who were killed, their names, their photographs, and tribute to their gallantry as officers of the police force. So it is not true that nobody talks about policemen who were killed. It's condemnable because to die in your line of duty, yes, policemen die in the course of fighting with armed robbers and other criminals. But to deliberately target policemen for killing is condemnable at any time. And that is in the light in which we are condemning this very dastardly recent act by ipob and its affiliate, the Eastern Security Network. Now, we move over to other newspapers.
Well, before you go, I must say that I find it this day headline a bit too shocking, though.
Yes.
Bestial, horrific, beheads, cannibalizes.
Because it is
dripping with blood.
Yes, because that is what it is. For the records, we have to say it as it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine.